All right, well, we will go ahead and get started. So good evening, everyone, again. Thank you all for joining us this evening. A special thank you to our panelists who will be sharing some great information with everyone tonight, and to our students, our scholars and alumni. Thank you for joining as well as you, again, begin to think about or are continuing to think about your own professional development. So I will turn it over to our moderator for the evening. Before I do that, I just wanted to kind of give a quick overview of what the evening will look like. So we will start with some, again, quick introductions from our panelists this evening. And then for about the next 25, 35 minutes, we will have just a panel Q&A where they will answer some questions that have been posed to them. And then after that, we will go into breakout rooms where each individual panelists will have their own breakout room, and you will have the opportunity to engage directly with one of them for about another 10 to 15 minutes, and then we'll come back to wrap up all together as a large group. So I will be chatting you individually throughout the session to see which presenter's breakout room you'd like to attend. So feel free to just send me a private chat if there's an individual that you would like to join. So with that, I will turn it over to our moderator for this evening. I will turn it over to Jasmine Brown. Jasmine is one of our Ron Brown Scholar alumni who is with us this evening. She is RBS class of 2007, and she currently serves as Technical Services Manager for the South Boston Manufacturing Center for Procter & Gamble. So I will turn it over to Jasmine. And again, thank you all for joining.
Thanks, Randy. Good evening, everyone. So I'm gonna go ahead and kick us off so that we have maximum time for questions. But first, I'm gonna start with introducing each of our speakers. As I introduce you, if you wanna just give you a brief introduction of yourself, and then we can move through each one of the speakers that way. So I'm going to start first with Wes Claffey. He's a project controls analyst for Apex Clean Energy, Inc. And Wes, do you want to give a little bit more about your introduction?
Yeah, sure. I'll go ahead. So I studied civil engineering at the University of Virginia, and I graduated in 2014. Afterwards, I worked as a project engineer for a concrete construction company in Virginia Beach. This was, great professional experience for me because they're a mid-sized company, and I was given a ton of work from the beginning. I was able to hit the ground running, and that really forced me to learn as much as possible about the industry, about the business, in order to be successful. However, even though I was good at my job and I had great opportunities lined up in that industry, it wasn't a business that I loved to be in. I knew I wanted to work on more sustainable focused projects. So I decided that I would quit my job and return to school to study environmental engineering. At that time, I also had a strong desire to travel. So I actually decided to get my master's degree from a university in Germany, where college education is free. And I was able to take advantage of a great opportunity, a very unique opportunity that forced me outside of my comfort zone, helped me find new interests, new passions, and really opened new doors for me in life. So after I received my master's degree, I landed a job in the Netherlands where I was working for a company that installs offshore wind farms. I was working as an assistant engineer there for about a year. I really enjoyed this position, really enjoyed being in the renewable energy industry, but I decided that I wanted to come back home, come back to America. So I did some research and came across another opportunity to work here at Apex Clean Energy in Charlottesville, Virginia. It was a job that I really couldn't pass up. So now, I'm working here as a project controls analyst, where I'm part of the project management team, handling the development of cost estimates, handling some insurance items, and supporting the project teams and other data analytic services. So it's nice to meet everyone, and looking forward to speaking to you later.
Thank you, Wes. Next, we're going to introduce Lisa Craddy. She's a SVP Head of Product Engineers for Siemens Healthineers.
Great, thank you. And thank you for having me. So just a little bit additional background on me. I've spent a little more than 20 years, I'll just round down for the sake of today, working in three main sectors. I've spent about a third of my career in the automotive industry, a third of my career in medical technology and life sciences, and then I guess not really a third, but a little bit more of my career, or a little bit less of my career in consumer goods. My whole focus has been product development or research and development. Probably little r, big D for most of what I've done. And I've spent almost all of my time, regardless of industry, working on the design and development of high volume or high complexity engineered systems or products. And my career has really, started from project engineer, roles of increasing responsibility through program management, into management position, and then taking on, teams of bigger scope throughout the course of my career. As I mentioned, I started in automotive industry, Ford Motor Company, and I had degrees in economics and management and mechanical engineering before I started in the auto industry. While I was at Ford, I actually went to grad school on the East Coast. I was born and raised in Michigan, so first time going to school outside of the state of Michigan. And it was a really eye-opening experience for me, just to kind of understand that lots of complex systems have common solutions regardless of the system. So I came back to Michigan after spending a few years on the East Coast and decided I really wanted to do a little more technical work than I had been doing at Ford. So I ended up on supply side, working on interior and safety systems for a large tier 1 auto supplier. Life got in the way a little bit throughout the course of a few years there, and the auto industry really was facing significant challenges. So probably dating myself a little bit there for you. I wanted to actually return to the East Coast, but my my work pedigree didn't really afford me the opportunity. They weren't really looking for people coming out of the automotive engineer or industry and automotive engineers at the time. So I ended up at a company called Even Flow in the Cincinnati area. And that's a company that makes juvenile products. So strollers, car seats, high chairs, and actually class 1 and 2 medical devices in breast pumps and accessories. That was really, I held previous sort of supervisory roles. That was the first role, moving into more director level, taking on broad scope and responsibility for strategy, budget, and development of teams. So I did that for a number of years. My position was actually eliminated working there when the economy had the last big downturn. And I had 3 opportunities pretty quickly. One was to go back to the auto industry and work for another different OEM than Ford. The second was to work for a competitor to Even Flow. And then the third was actually to come to the East Coast and work for a company called Becton Dickinson, or BD, a large med tech company. And actually, having had just a little bit of experience with medical devices, I took the chance and came to the East Coast, as I had kind of always wanted to do. And I thought it was probably a good opportunity to broaden my personal portfolio and try something different. I was there until recently, actually, for about 10 years, and I had 2 main focuses. The first part of my time there, for the first 5 years, was pretty classical background for me. New product development, working on medical devices. So again, R&D, the portfolio strategy, building strong teams, launching new products, executing, and kind of maintenance of business. The latter half of my time at BD was spent in the sort of corporate side of R&D, and that was all around R&D strategy. It was due diligence for several major acquisitions the company made while I was there, and really about kind of big picture thinking and not necessarily just at a business level. So important opportunity for me, and I was the chief of staff to our chief technology officer. Last September, in the midst of the pandemic, I did something I probably never would have thought in my life I would do, and I joined a new company. I left my job and joined the company where I am now, which is Siemens Healthineers, in the lab diagnostics business. So pretty much a return to my roots, leading a large team responsible for the design, development, verification, maintenance, and support of lab instrumentation, so diagnostic instruments. And that's about it. That brings me to where I am today. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Lisa. Next, we're going to go to Corey Weathers. He is a senior staff systems architect at Lockheed Martin Corporation.
Thank you, Jasmine. And first, thank you to the Ron Brown team for the opportunity to spend time with all of you this evening. And congratulations and kudos to all the students on for making this choice to invest in yourself in this way by participating in what I know is going to be a great session. Um, as Jasmine said, my name is Corey Weathers. I work for a company called Lockheed Martin, which is a large aerospace and defense company, about 110,000 people, employees who, and the company is based in Bethesda, Maryland, but has locations all across the US and in many parts of the world. I currently work in Orlando, Florida, in our training and logistics business, which is all about preparedness. And by preparedness, I mean that we develop systems that help men and women in the armed forces both know how to operate the very large, complex platforms that they use to complete their missions, and also provide technology services and capabilities that help make sure they have the materials, equipment, and other wares that they need to perform their missions and come home safely. Um, as Jasmine said, my current title, I'm a systems architect. But what that means is that I help define how to best structure systems so that they can help the users achieve their intended results. Kind of broad in general, but those systems are typically computer-based, largely driven by technology products and integrated in interesting ways to help people perform some pretty complex jobs. In terms of background, I finished undergrad in 2004 at James Madison University, started as an individual contributor engineer with my first company, Xerox. Have changed companies a couple of times, gained more responsibility as I got more experience and training and awareness. Went from individual contributor to smaller teams, to slightly larger teams, to very large teams, departments, engineering, program and project management. I've worked for Xerox, GE, and Lockheed Martin over these years. Formal education, bachelor's degree and master's degrees in engineering, specifically industrial and systems engineering, an MBA in finance and entrepreneurship, and some professional certifications along the way. And that's me in a nutshell. Happy to be with you this evening.
Thank you, Corey. And last but definitely not least is Anika Van Hoonacker, and she's the manager and remote connected products for Otis Elevator Company.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. Once again, my name is Anika Van Hoonacker, and I spent the majority of my career actually here with Otis Elevator Company. My background is I graduated from North Carolina A&T State University with a degree in electrical engineering, and I have an MBA as well that I attained from the University of Phoenix. And right now, my current title is the manager of remote connected products, but however, I came up through the ranks in what's considered the service business of the company. In the elevator world, most people don't ever think about it until they have to either take an elevator up somewhere because they realize they've got to go more than one step or one floor, or the unit is broken. So the elevator world is made up of 3 departments. It's called service side, new equipment, and modernization. Majority of my career has been on the service side. I came in as an engineer, as a technical specialist in the service parts department. I had the option to be what's known as a contract engineer, but I didn't want to get what's known called pigeonholed in my career because a contract engineer specifies on one particular thing. Because I also had the MBA type of background, I knew I wanted to be more broad based. So what I ended up doing was going into the service parts because you have to know more components of an elevator. The advance in the elevator world, you have to know about elevators. You either fix them, install them, and items such as that. So you have to figure out a path to get to the top. So when I was in that part, I was electrical engineer liaison with the electrical engineering department and the software engineering department. From there, I transitioned over to what's called our unit division, which deals with our competitors, mechanics, but who have Otis elevators still in them, and they have to service them, but they need to make sure that they had some capability to get to our equipment and our technical information in a way that wasn't taking any kind of proprietary information away. From there, I worked on special projects, went into a little modernization business on that side, and I transitioned over to a supervisor role where I dealt with just pure special projects, a little bit of project management. Then from there, I showed a little bit of leadership, and I was able to do a couple of special projects where we did acquisitions of other companies. I was able to go in with inventory reductions on those things, cost management. So because I was able to lead those type of areas, I then ended up transitioning off into what's called a major project role. So major projects, I ended up switching over from service to new equipment for a little bit because I wanted to once again expand my horizon and move out of the service and modernization side I've been in. So I went to newer equipment, which dealt more with construction. You have to learn about reading construction diagrams, blueprints, what goes into building a building, deadlines, projects, and that dealt with the multi-million-dollar units from there. After I left that particular company, then they transitioned me to lead a team of over 100 people to move a department from one location to the other, which included a project of making sure the customer didn't feel anything, transitioning entire department software in hardware, making sure that all the telephony, anything that went with an entire department shifted to another building. So that was another 2-year project. And after I did that, I got moved to my current role now, which is the leader for all remote connected products for North America, which an elevator is now basically a computer. It deals with software that goes in and any type of talking that goes in from the IoT of things. The internet is now being transitioned to the elevator itself as like a big computer software. And my team analyzes that and can now tell what's going on with the elevators from an individual location. And we can tell if we need to send mechanics out there, reach out to buildings, know what's going on. So it's a whole system that's in place that goes in that I've gone through from the beginning to the end. And I've seen the development of the elevator from a microprocessing to, like I said, a computer is now. And that's just me in a nutshell and what I do with the company. So nice to meet everyone.
Thank you, Anika. And thank you all to our panelists. So I actually want to start us off with a question where you guys did a great job of telling us how you made your decision from when you actually entered into the workforce and like what has been your career progression to get you to where you are now. What made you decide to go into, with everybody, actually all the panelists, into engineering or into a STEM field? Like, was there a passion that was always there? Was there a way that you were trying to find your path? What drove you to actually go into engineering? I don't know, Anika, do you want to start?
Okay,
Oh, okay.
Okay. I can start. Actually, for me, it's I come from a family of engineers. I'm electrical. My dad was electrical. I have a brother that's aerospace. my mother is computer engineering. Another brother that's civil. So engineering is all within our family. And when we were younger, what we used to do, my dad would do little STEM games. He'd order stuff and he'd give it to each one of us and say, hey, put these things together to see which ones we sort of gravitated to. And I always gravitated more towards electrical. Elevator field, I've always known about it because my dad happened to be in the elevator field. And so he would bring blueprints home and I would look at it and it would interest me. I was like, I'd ask him a ton of questions. So I sort of knew going in that one, I wanted to be an electrical engineer and I was interested in the elevator field is based off of everything that he did when I brought that home. So that's how my passion started for engineering.
Awesome, thank you. And Wes, I heard you come off of mute.
Yeah, that's right. For me, I've always known that I've loved construction projects and that I've wanted to be a civil engineer. But which, specific discipline was something that, I had no idea going into college. So I was lucky enough to get an internship after my junior year in transportation engineering. And that was a great experience, but I knew that I didn't want to do that. And then, after I graduated, I had the entry-level position working in the concrete construction industry. And while I also enjoyed doing that, I knew that I didn't love it and didn't see myself there for the next 20 or so years. So really, it was only after, having some professional experience that I finally discovered what I did and did not want to do. So, there's going to be those, I guess you can call it trial and error of, kind of following the opportunities that you're given. And then from there, you can kind of weed through what you like, what you don't like, and where your career path will take you.
Lisa, you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I always tell a little bit of a joke when I was little. I have a brother who's 2 years older than me, and I knew before him, and hopefully this isn't a spoiler alert for anyone, that Santa Claus wasn't a thing because I had to help my parents put together bikes and skis and toys for my brother because I love doing that stuff, right? Like I just gravitated to the problem solving way of life, if you will. And actually, I got a little derailed in route to becoming an engineer. I started out at a liberal arts college where you did sort of pre-engineering for 3 years, and then you went to an accredited university for 2 years. And in the course of 3 years, I actually had a minor in economics and management. And in year 3, when I would have had to transfer, I thought, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go work. It'll be so great to be done with school. And I finished that major. I started at a company that did these really complex aluminum stampings for the auto industry, these progressive dies, very fascinating stuff. I spent way more time out on the floor than I did doing the job I was hired to do. And within 3 months, I was registered and back in school to finish my engineering degree, and then never looked back. I grew up in Southeast Michigan. Of course, I was going to work on cars for some portion of my career, but have just always been fascinated by how to solve mechanical problems.
Thank you, Lisa. Corey?
Yeah, for me, you know, at a very, very young age, I knew I was a tinkerer. I like to take things apart, put things together, combine things that weren't designed to work together to make them work together. And my grandmother was the first person in my life who told me that she thought I should consider a career in engineering before I even knew what an engineer was. So I decided pretty early, went to a STEM-focused high school, got involved in engineering competitions and those types of things. And it's just kind of been a path that I chose a long time ago, and has opened up a lot of doors throughout my life. So I've kind of known for a long time.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
one other like common theme I heard throughout all the stories that you guys said as you came up was actually really getting into, you know, actually the individual contributor into the broader, I think that's something, Corey, you had brought up.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that most of you have touched on is kind of getting into from like an engineer on a project to now you're like managing a project, and now you're managing a group of people who are managing multiple projects. When you think about that journey, is it, you know, coincidence that all of you have seen this trait as you're going through leadership, or is there like a common theme that really helps create kind of leaders or skill or that all leaders have?
I mean, I'll chime in on this one. For me, I think you know, I've kind of gravitated and in some cases been pushed into leadership roles. But I think that for me started in school with like team projects, right? It was pretty deeply instilled in me throughout school that when I got into the workforce, very rarely was I going to be individually solving complex problems, and that it would always take a team effort. And then folks were always throwing around this leadership word, and I started to notice that the leaders were paid well, and I wanted to be paid well as well. And so I started to take the training and get the exposure and read beyond just the technical stuff and try to connect the dots for the business and how the companies create value. So yeah, that's kind of how the progression has been for me.
I can go a little bit. I think it's a little bit of how you want to advance your career personally. A lot of it is, you know, you come as an engineer, you're first you're thinking, great, I'm gonna go work on something, a project, work on something that's me, I can put out there, show somebody what I've done. And then as you're working, you find out you're with a team and doing certain things, but then you see you want to make a decision, you want to make a change. And the only way sometimes you can make a change is to get to a position of leadership. And depending on who you're working with in some companies, you have to realize that if you're working on a project and you do a good job, it's a running joke saying you get punished for doing a good thing, because then they start giving you, oh, if you did something good here, okay, let's give you this. Can you do this? And then they start to look at you and see if you can make a decision, because I think that's a strong trait that a lot of leaders look for. Can the person working on the project make a decision? Can you listen and tell people what to do? And the more you do that, I think, you know, for me, it's been a little bit of, I'm doing it myself, other people have noticed, and, you know, you have to recognize the opportunity where you've pushed you to something where you're thinking you probably wouldn't have done it yourself, but you sort of recognize if I got to take this, if I want to get to the next level. And like you said, sometimes you just want to get paid. Leaders get paid a little bit more for it. And I think that's how we sort of transition that way. It's a little bit of push and what you're trying to do to get to that next level as well.
I can just jump in on this one as well. And just to say, I think there was a point in my career where I realized I could kind of be like the technical whisperer, right? Like help bring people together, solve problems, talk about technical problems in a way that resonated with a non-technical audience. And I found myself able to kind of be a good moderator of discussion and kind of help people work through, major disagreements. And then eventually, as I progressed through my career and started to lead people, I was hiring people for jobs I would not have been able to get, right? The things they were doing, the technologies they were developing, what they were working on. And I love that. I found that I had so much interest in learning from the people on my teams. I loved it. I loved what they could teach me. So a little bit selfishly, my goal was to help them develop, and their goal was to help me stay current, I guess, right? And understand kind of the technologies we were working on. And I just never really looked back from that point. I think for some people, it's a little bit hard to make that separation. You decide you want to keep doing, deep technical work, or do you want to be a technical leader? And for me, it eventually just like, it wasn't really an option for me. I really felt like it was the path.
I'm gonna take one that's a little bit more on kind of on engineering. What are some of the misconceptions that people have, or uncertainties that people have when pursuing an engineering degree? And especially, I think if you can talk about, I think all of our panelists within the field would be considered a minority in engineering. That it's a field that's generally dominated by white men. So what were some of the things, like going into this field, making that decision? What were some of the obstacles that you faced, that notions or preconceptions that you had to fight past?
I'll start. One of the things that I had to deal with was they have an idea that if you're an engineer, you want to just be technical. You don't want to think outside of other things. When you think of the business aspects or the finance aspect, they assume you wanted to just go in, work on a component and make that component better. So a lot of people don't realize that engineering sometimes is the problem solving way. They teach you how to think about things, and you can take that foundation and almost apply it anywhere in the business world. People just think engineers just stay focused on one thing and that's all they work on and don't really expand. So that's what I found a lot, that they're like, oh, you're a people person. Like, yes, I know how to talk to people. I like to engage, but they sometimes see engineers as sitting in a room looking at things and don't bother me. So I think that's a misconception that people usually have about us.
Yeah, I think I can so I can echo that experience that Anika shared. And what I've found is, in my experience, that we absolutely, most companies that that work on technology focused or technical products and hire and staff engineers, you absolutely do need a good portion of people who are very focused on the technology, kind of like down at the detailed level. Um, but I think there's sometimes as Anika said, there's this misconception that those people don't also care about the good of the business. And what I've found is that some of the best engineers I know have mastered and really come to grips with the best way that they contribute, and the best way that they can contribute and leverage their strengths is in the technology. But they also need people um, um, like Lisa, who can be those technical whisperers and kind of bridge that gap. So, kind of echoing what Anika said and just adding a different perspective there. So, me too, I guess.
I'll ask another one. All of you actually did start in engineering, so it might be a question about people who've hired into your company and such. I guess, is there any way into engineering fields in your companies, et cetera, for people who didn't know coming out of college that they wanted to do specifically engineering? Is there pathways to get into something that's maybe more engineering, not just like the commercial end of the business, but like to kind of rediscover your passion or move towards engineering? even after graduation.
I think, oh, go ahead.
No, please.
Well, okay, your answer is probably going to be better, so you probably should have gone. But okay, in my company, we're a German company, so pretty much we pride ourselves on kind of our technical discipline, our rigor, and other things. But I think Anika, you mentioned something really interesting about Otis that is sort of a pathway in my company as well, which is on the service side, right? So you don't come in to design the instruments, you learn how to fix them, right? You learn what the customer does, how they do it, and you can have any background and do that, right? Because it's all about learning how things come together. Now, if maybe you have an engineering background and that helps, and people like to start there, but it's actually a great way to know what's in the field to then eventually maybe learn about your passion for engineering and start designing it, because it actually makes you a much better engineer than on the other side to know about the problems and what you're fixing. So for us, that's a bit of a pathway too. Like I say, a lot as Anika described it for her.
Hey, Corey, you want to go? I had another one.
Yeah. No, please go ahead, Anika.
Okay. Within Otis, like I said, there's different ways, and we have what's called the corporate side, and we have the field side. And with the field side, there's many different roles that you come in on the field. And a lot of times we've had people who they've come in from different types of backgrounds, the different types of majors, and depending on where they start, they could start as a salesperson within the group. But because you're starting as a salesperson, you need to be able to understand what you're selling. So sometimes they get really into the technical aspects of it and start learning things, and they go up the chain in a way that they may not stay on the sales side. They may go over to the product development side because they understand what the customer is looking for and the needs that way. So within our company, there are multiple ways that you can get in from a different major. It would mostly come from someone starting in the field and understanding the elevators that way, and then working their way more towards the technical aspect of it. So I think it would go that would be an answer.
Yeah, I guess what I would offer is that so I think of the answer to this from two perspectives. One, certainly in my career, I've come across very talented individuals who are working or have worked as engineers and may not have started down that path and kind of worked their way into engineering roles once they were in the workforce and associated with a company. And those have been, some of the most talented, dynamic, hardworking people that I've had the fortune of learning from. But on the other hand, I would also offer that if for students who are on the call who might be pretty early in their college careers, or even midway or closer to the end, if you know that you want to work as an engineer, I would absolutely encourage you to take the steps to prepare so that you don't have to get those opportunities by exception. You've demonstrated that you had the foresight and took the steps to prepare to get there. I'm never rarely will I promote like taking a shortcut. But if you decide later that once you get into the workforce and maybe you didn't take the engineering path and you want to get those experiences, there are certainly ways to do it. But early enough on, kind of set the direction, set a plan, and work toward the credentials that get you entry into those roles.
I know we're coming up on the end, but I'm going to ask one last one because I think this is always helpful for people to ground, and we all go through obstacles in life. And so can you maybe briefly talk about an obstacle that you had to overcome? It could have been in college to get into your major, or it could have been even as you started your professional career. And I'll actually start with Wes this time.
Yeah, sure. So I guess, before going to graduate school, the idea of paying, tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars for getting, another degree was definitely weighing on me, trying to justify the cost benefit ratio of, returning to school, seeing if it would pay off. So, I decided to look outside the box and see what other opportunities I had, both domestically and internationally, seeing what programs are available, stuff that, I'm interested in that I think will still help me in finding opportunities and helping my career path, but just maybe it's a little bit different from the standard. So I'd say, yeah, when faced with obstacles, in this case, it was a financial obstacle, just kind of decided to kind of look outside the box and reach a little further, going outside my comfort zone to find something that would help push me along in the direction that I wanted to go.
Thank you, Wes. Anybody else want to chime in?
I can go ahead, and I think I already mentioned it just sort of in my intro, that my position was eliminated at work, and that had never happened to me. Anytime I had left a job had always been because I was going to something else. So like really the immediate moment, the shock was like overwhelming. And then I realized, hey, this is not so bad. We're kind of like, it's the end of the year. I could maybe take a little extra time for the holidays. And I just made looking for a job a full-time job. I had gone to a job in Ohio for the job. My network was really, really minimal where I was living. And I just kind of told myself, like Wes is saying, you got to look outside the box. And I said, this is your chance. Like, you wanted to go to the East Coast. You wanted to do something different. I believe everything happens for a reason. There was a reason. It was probably truly the best thing that ever happened to me. And then to move into a whole new industry from where I had been. So, a couple easier options presented to me. And I took the one that, on the surface was in reality, the more difficult choice, but it worked out to be the best one that I could have made.
Thank you, Lisa. So we are probably at time to go into make sure we get enough time for the small group. I want to, thank Corey, Anika, Lisa, and Wes. Your words were really helpful. I learned some things. I saw common themes even in my career, and so that was exciting. It made me feel like I was on the right path. And so I will turn it back over to Randy, who will get us situated with our breakout groups.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jasmine, and thank you, everyone, again for your time. So thank you for everyone who has been responding to my private chats for breakout rooms. I think I have almost everyone. So what'll happen, you guys are probably all Zoom experts now, so you'll see the breakout room pop up. You can just accept it. If for some reason you don't go to a room right away, that is because either I did not assign you one in time. So you'll just stay in the main room and then just let me know which room you want to go to, and I will move you over. To the panelists, you should have a staff member in your room, either Anita, Holly, or I put Jasmine in one. I think it's Wes, or actually Corey. I'm going to pop into yours after I get everybody situated and out of the main room, and then I'll pop over to make sure you're okay. So I will open our rooms now, and then we'll come back in about 10 to 15 minutes and we'll close out. All right. Hey, Christopher, let me know if there's a specific room that you want to join, and I will move you into that room.
I forgot his name, but I believe there's a gentleman from Lockheed Martin.
Okay, I will add you now.
Thank you.
Well, welcome back, everyone. Thanks for, hopefully you had some good conversations in your breakout rooms. So to wrap things up for the evening, I'm going to ask each one of our presenters if they could share, and maybe you did this in your breakout rooms as well, maybe share kind of one piece of advice or kind of lasting or final words that you'd like to share with the group tonight. and in no particular order. So feel free to jump in.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and chime in first. So yeah, in the breakout room, I was mentioning one of the more important qualities that leaders should possess, and that being soft skills, which are really those skills that can't be taught, but it includes your ability to get along well with others, to get along with your teammates, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you treat others. There's no doubt in my mind that everyone here on this call has the technical capabilities and the book smarts to be successful. But if you can complement those technical capabilities with the soft skills, being able to work well with others, working well on the team, helping to facilitate discussions and being a team player, that's really what can give you the edge in being successful and becoming a leader.
Yeah, I can jump in. I mean, I'll just say I think those are great points, Wes. I would echo those and just add of don't be afraid to take a chance. Sometimes engineers, we always think about things are, it's a formula, you want the right answer, the number has to match something that you expected to see. But there's a world of possibility out there. So don't be afraid to kind of explore it and fail, right? I mean, the best engineers have failures. When I interview candidates and I ask them to describe something that didn't work out for them, if they tell me nothing, everything's always worked out for them, or on the design side, I know I probably don't have the right candidate. So don't take chances, dive in, fail fast and often, and you'll recover and do great things. So good luck.
And I'll go next. I did say it in my room, but the best piece of career advice that I received, and I follow it to this day, it was early in my career when my mentors told me there are 4 things you need to be able to do to be successful. And that was make a decision, know it's okay to say no, when unsure, ask questions, and just recognize the important opportunities. And those 4 things right there, no matter what position I've been in, those have always come in and out of however I've done my job. And so by being able to do those 4, I've been, in my opinion, successful to navigate my career to at least where it is right now.
I guess one thing I want to offer that came up as part of the discussion in our breakout room was one of the students asked a question about maybe areas that of engineering that they might want to focus on to get into fields like aerospace and defense. And one of the things I was offering is that regardless of what type of, like if you're, those of the students who might be in engineering programs or degree programs, regardless of which discipline you're in, having an understanding of the value of data and data analytics and some of the buzzwords around that that you're hearing about, having a solid grasp of cybersecurity and what it means, and how it is valuable to every industry, and then having some understanding about cloud computing and the things that offers. Regardless of what specific engineering discipline you might be in, those are 3 areas that I would recommend as, if you are conversant in those areas, you're a couple of steps ahead already. So find a way to get that experience.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for your time, both to our students, our panelists and presenters. Thank you, Jasmine, for moderating this evening, and for kind of keeping us on time tonight with everything. So thank you for that. And again, I think it was Corey who mentioned at the beginning, you guys are doing a great job by investing this time and kind of learning more, so that you can continue to progress both in your educational and professional career. So to the students, thank you for joining, and congratulations for investing this time to grow and learn more. So again, thank you to everyone for joining. Thank you to Holly and Anita for helping to organize this session. And with that, we will wrap things up for the evening. Again, everyone have a great night, and we will see you for the next one. We will be doing a series of these events throughout the year, so be on the lookout for our next event coming up likely sometime next month. All right.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Yeah, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Everyone. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.